Okay, I'm starting. So let's begin officially. Hello and welcome to today's webinar. My name is Karina and this is Share Your Story with Confidence or a webinar presented by Share Your Story, which is a community, an online community that I founded based around reading, writing, and positive thinking. The community is mostly made up of English language teachers, English language learners, but of course there are teachers of other languages there, and of course there are people who don't teach too, but who are interested in creativity. So I wanted to organize these kind of workshops or webinars to kind of bring everyone together, to provide the opportunity to share your story, to talk about what's important to you, and hopefully that's going to happen tonight or today. So without further ado, I'm going to hand over to the special guest of the day, Caroline Gatti. Over to you.
Thank you so much. I'm going to do this through a PowerPoint presentation, just so that, because we're covering quite a lot of ground, so it's just a bit of a way of staying on track and just keeping certain concepts and things right in front of us. Let's just see, just get that started. How can I be able to see that? Is that interfering with vision? Everybody can see that? Because I'm more interested, truth be told, in contact with you guys, but it's quite handy to have these things on the screen just to keep us on track. So the first thing I wanted to do was introduction phase really quickly. We'd begun this 5-10 minutes ago, but just since I'm one presenting this evening, I just want to just a more formal introduction. My name is Caroline Gatti. The accent, I don't know if you pick it up, is very, 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 very Scottish. No, I'm calling from Italy. The accent is Scottish and the surname is absolutely Italian because my dad was Italian, my mum was Scottish, born in Scotland, moved to Italy, spent the last 10 years of my life in the Middle East. So I have just come from the desert. Who was it complaining about the heat in Rio? I have just come from the Sahara Desert to the freezing cold, and I'm struggling to get used to it. I've been an English language teacher virtually all of my professional life, apart from a chapter when I was in my mid-30s, I guess, when I worked in industry. I was actually doing sales, marketing, QA, all sorts of stuff. And that's something I ended up informing when I went back to education. It actually did impact my next steps in teaching, but that's for a whole other conversation. I have an interest in creativity, which is one of Karina's main themes throughout all these workshops. I have had a love of the visual arts since childhood and a love of the written word. Some box put away somewhere, there are poems of mine from when I was 6 or 7. They're all really bad. However, this desire to express myself through creative means has always been there, still present to the current day, even as we're hitting old age. I've been dabbling in watercolors over the last couple of years, a bit of mixed media, with very mixed results, truth be told, but it's just important to me. It's just a part of me that I think I need to get out there. Okay, so on to the next person. Karina, do you want to, do we count you as already introduced, or can we move on to somebody else?
As you wish. I don't know. I could do a brief introduction.
I would like to know if you could, you're an English teacher, that's your sort of core profession, but the link to creativity, you didn't mention that. Could you tell us your relationship to creativity?
I think perhaps in a very loose way, I want to try to do things differently and try to come up with alternatives. and to challenge myself in different ways. Maybe I think of creativity in that way, just in kind of the choices that I make, studies that I've done, places that I've lived. I think when I was young at school, I did write poems and stories, and then all of a sudden that stopped dramatically, and I started my work life and I completely forgot about it. And I always had these ideas and words that I wanted to put down, but I never really put them down. And except in my diary, I write a diary every day. And then kind of fast forward, if we want to fast forward to today, really, or more recently, I got a lot of inspiration from a module that I studied, a creative writing module, and that kind of reignited my interest and for reading, for writing. I joined a poetry group and started writing poetry, and yeah, and it just kind of just snowballed from there. So the module and a recent project that I did, which was running an online course in creative writing, that kind of has got the creative juices flowing. And yeah.
Lovely.
That's
good.
where I am.
That's good. Anytime is good. Carol, you gave a brief introduction of yourself. You're a teacher and you're in Brazil, you said.
Yes, I'm in the south of Brazil. Yes, Leticia. Yes. So I'm in the south of Brazil. I've been teaching for a long time, and I just love every type of art. And I've recently published a short story in a book.
Oh, wow. Well done, you.
Yes, it's the name is because it's only women. This editor here, they publish only women, and so this book is called Coven because we are all witches, and so we wrote short stories, and now I'm getting back to poetry and writing something. So when I saw this webinar, I felt like I need to be part of this.
Oh, that's lovely. That's lovely. Well done, you though. The book, my God. Oh, a quick welcome to Susan, who's just joined us. Leticia, do you want to go a quick introduction to? I didn't catch her. You're a teacher. You're a teacher. I didn't.
Yeah. I just have a question, Carol. Are you in our Women Collab group?
No, I guess not.
No. Okay. Because you are so like us that I thought that you.
Maybe I should be.
Please join us. That's why I asked that. Are you there? And I don't know you because there are, almost 60 of us there. That's why I don't know every girl by name, everyone by name. So please join us. Later we can talk about it. But about me, just too, because I don't want to waste Caroline's time. I'm a teacher. I live here in Rio. I work with women and helping them to develop their English skills, to help them with their careers, and wherever area they want to. And nowadays, what we're doing is to focus on self-development, their self-development, their like empowerment, but not just this. That's my work. I'm trying to communicate with them, telling them that it's possible. I'm here, so you can do the same. You can do wherever you want. Is that?
Excellent, brilliant. Hernani, do you have Hernani is your first name or your surname? Is this in Spanish? Because in Italy, they sometimes write the surname, then their first name. Julio sounds like a first name. Is it Hernani?
Oh yeah, this is a Portuguese name. It is original from Portugal. Yeah, I'm from Angola, and a Portuguese colony. I speak Portuguese, so this name is very common in where I live.
Okay.
So Hernani is my first name, and my surname, my family name is Julio.
Oh, I see. Okay. I was just double checking because here in Italy, they will invert they'll use first the family name and then the first name. So if you're not familiar with the names, you could get confused which one you're supposed to be using. So Hernani, you said you're an English language student. Do you have any kind of connection with creative things? Do you write? Do you paint? Do you play music? Is creativity important in your life?
Well, no. This is a new world for me. So I'm trying. Okay, I love art. I love music. I love reading, but I have no this kind of inspiration as all you in the group have. So I'm trying to connect to people like you all, and in order to learn something, maybe in the future I can do some writing also, but
Okay.
I don't do this now.
So you're looking for inspiration and encouragement, and that's great. That's
Yeah,
fabulous.
right.
That's fabulous.
That's like that. That's right. Yeah.
Just I will go very quickly. Well, Susan has come in. Hi, Susan. Welcome. Do you feel it's saying a couple of words to us? Just a quick presentation.
Okay. Yeah. Sorry, I'm late. So I am an English language teacher in Algeria. Normally, is where I live. But at the moment, I'm in the UK caring for my mother because she's very unwell. So yeah, and a long time ago, I used to do like lots of art and painting, but now I think my creativity goes into my teaching, and I particularly have enjoyed when I've done creative stuff with my teaching, like drama and things like that. Mm-hmm. And I often incorporate drawing activities and yeah, creative stuff.
Okay, excellent. Okay, so there's a thread that kind of joins off as either practicing creative activities or aspiring to, and in the very least appreciating them. And the teaching and education is also another common thread. So I'm just going to get started. I'm just going to chat for a little bit just to get the whole presentation started. Where are we? There. And then I've lost Susan. Why have I lost Susan?
I'm here.
She's there.
So there, you're just not appearing. Okay, so we've done the introductions, and we'll get into. I'm not going to be talking all through it. Don't worry. I'm just going to talk for a little bit, introduce a couple of notions, and fire some questions at you, and you can decide whether things are one way or another. So the general topic, very loosely, is women teaching and technology. The reason I asked about creativity at the beginning was, but in actual fact, the invisible link here, or at least an invisible presence, is the creative element, kind of connected to technology. And then the question is whether it gets lost or not. Questions that I want to not answer, but just leave there on the table during our little chat, which can kind of guide the direction of the conversations we have, but we don't have to answer them. We can leave them suspended in midair for all eternity. It's not a big deal. It's whether educational technology used everywhere, and as we were saying with Carol earlier on, it kind of informs the way and compounds the way education has been commodified. Whether it has a gendered aspect, whether it favors or benefits men more than women, whether the usage of EdTech should be differentiated for men and women, if certain tools suit women better than men, and vice versa. I want to talk about the connection, or maybe the broken connection that education EdTech might represent in education regarding creativity. Does it interfere with it? Or on the other hand, completely the opposite, does it actually support it and enhance it? And we're going to look through all of these things through a bit of a feminist lens or women's equality lens, or since potentially it could affect genders differently. Now, the reason we're talking about this, the reason I've chosen this as my topic to give in Karina's workshop, is that I have been doing, I'm at the tail end of a master's in digital technologies for language teaching, and I'm at the research dissertation stage. Oh, somebody else has just arrived. Helen, there we go, I just admitted her. And I was, as part of my background reading, I was looking into the whole technology sector from a feminist point of view. And I was aghast to discover just how bad things are for women in the industrial technology. I'm talking about big tech, Silicon Valley, Microsoft, Google, Facebook. Women have an absolutely awful time in there. I'm not going to get into details right now, but I would, if you're not aware of this, I would advise you to go and read up on it. There are articles, even papers. It's not necessarily academic reports. It is a huge problem. Nasty stuff, nasty, nasty, nasty. With women's representation in the industrial sector of technology, very reduced to fairly non-powerful roles, and with immense difficulty in working their way up the hierarchy, and a lot of them abandon career midway through because they can't stand it. So when I started to look at EdTech, which was connected to the topic of my dissertation, I set off assuming that EdTech as a subsection of the technology industry wouldn't really have terribly bad problems regarding female inclusion, because I thought EdTech, education, educators, educated people, they would not stoop so low. However, I came across this, the case of this poor woman academic who was abused online. She was subjected to a lot of quite unpleasant, to the point of having to lie low, close accounts. She was getting death threats, rape threats. For what reason? In one of these public forums, I think it might have been Twitter, she discussed her favorite form of academic research, which is that word there, autoethnography. I think that's how you pronounce it. I had to go and Google it. I had no idea what it actually meant. Fundamentally, it is it's the posh word for research done through personal narrative, which kind of fits into the way I would like to do things this evening. So it's very much about your personal experiences. And this woman, simply for stating in a group or to contacts who are connected with the academic world, that she favored one research method over another, because that research method was considered a bit girly, that it was all me, and emotions and touchy-feely, and not statistics and numbers and masculine and butch. This poor woman had to flee her social media accounts. So that made me think, okay, that's not a good sign for EdTech. It's not quite as clean as we think. Plus, just as a sign of support to this poor woman, we're going to use personal narrative throughout the evening. Okay, so here we go. This is us getting more into the thick of it. We're going to have a look at the concept of gender coding of concepts and entities, by which I mean, in the collective imagination, because of stereotyping, because of gender bias, because of sexism and so on, certain things are more associated with females, with women, with girls, and other things are more associated with men and boys. For example, the tendency to communicate verbally, literacy, high literacy skills, emotional intelligence, communicating with an emotional background, family, relationships, networks, childcare, domestic realm, professions which are somehow connected or can be labeled as caring professions, where the main objective is not money making and getting power, but it's doing something for other people, and setting aside personal ambitions, favoring the success of group and collaboration. All these things are commonly associated with the female realm. Whereas numbers, measuring, counting, statistics, money and finance, science, industries, in particular big industry, authorities, governmental authorities, legal authorities, police, government, and so on, and personal, individual power, power for the self, or personal ambition, is very often associated with the males. So I'm sort of coding them pink and coding them blue. So my first question I'm going to throw out there to you is, do you agree with that statement, that this is true today, that even now in the collective imagination, these entities or these concepts are coded in this way? Or have I misunderstood, or have things changed? What do you think? Over to you people. Somebody speak to me. Karina, you start. Do you agree with all of these?
I don't, but I did see that Carol had her hand up.
Oh, there's somebody else. I'm not seeing Carol at all.
No, I didn't have my hand up, but
Carol, wait a minute. Maybe I'm making a mistake. No, that's not much better, is it?
I don't really know how to put the grid on a way we can see everybody.
Am I going to be able to see everybody? Have I got everybody in? Where's Carol? Oh, there you are. Okay. I've cut out my, oh no, I'm still there. Who's missing? Katrina, who's just come in, and there's Helen there as well. So, okay. Sorry, yeah.
Well, I guess things are like that. Unfortunately, still are like that in most countries. Most people believe that and still teach the youngsters to be like that too, which is very worrying for me. But I think we are trying to change that, right?
Absolutely.
I don't know how you deal with this country.
Who's that, Letizia?
Yeah, yes.
Sorry, dear, I didn't hear you. Can you repeat?
Yes, sure. I don't know, how do you deal with this kind of situation in Europe or UK or Italy, or Scotland, but here in Brazil, as South Americans, we struggle a lot with this kind of stereotypes. When you mentioned this girl about the Silicon Valley, I remember I've spent 10 years working into the oil and gas industry here in Brazil, and it was a tough time because, as you mentioned, people are not ready to discuss or even to value or recognize when young women are there doing their jobs, and people sometimes misunderstand what we are doing there. So I suffered a lot. I struggled a lot with that. And finally, I need to, take some psychological treatments.
Oh my God.
Because I was really young at that time. I started in the industry when I was 18 until my 27, almost 28. So almost 10 years struggling, trying to show people that I want to work. I'm there just to work. And then, it really upsets me when I see this interdivide like this. Because we need to fight every day to show people that we can do wherever we want to do.
God. So you actually worked in the technology sector, basically?
Yes,
do I understand correct?
Yes, I work at, I don't know if you know this, survey. I worked in a company that we used some robots, so it was robotics, and I need to sell these technologies to huge companies like Guys and so on. So I want to introduce them with new technology to survey, to this survey.
That's amazing.
But it was tough. It was tough. And can you imagine me in that room with like 20, 30 mid-aged men trying to explain what I'm there to sell? And it was tough.
Yeah, I can imagine. See, the problem, of course, as people either involved in education or directly engaged in education, is the fact that technology, the overriding general technology sector, is what generates educational technology. And in reality, some of these massive big tech companies are behind these little brands which seem purely educational. In quite a frightening way. The big ones, all the the big ones, the big curriculum generators and coding campaigns, big tech is directly behind them. And this is the whole reason I'm doing my dissertation with this theme, because ed tech it evolves from them. There's this risk that if they're so misogynistic, if not today, but in the future, could this impact the way women are educated or the kind of attention that women are given? It's quite dire. So it's my questions, you kind of answered it, Leticia, the gendering, the color coding of teaching, in your opinion, is it pink or blue? In your opinion, in the collective imagination, educational management, is it pink or blue? Is it masculine or feminine? And finally, technology, where does it lie? What are your thoughts on that? Susan, can I ask you to give your thoughts? What do you think the general impression is about the gender coding of these three entities?
Well, I agree with what you're saying, but I think that you have to look at it in a wider sense, in a way, in that it doesn't just impact on gender. I mean, I totally value that you're focusing on that. But I attended this thing in the World Social Forum yesterday, which was on Frerian education perspectives, and they said that they had been hacked, and that they had to email everybody that had registered for that Frerian kind of session, and send new links out to everybody. So we started our session late, and they said that they'd been hacked, and they said that obviously there are people who don't want that kind of approach to education. And obviously, if people are trying to capitalize on education, like make money out of it, then who knows what tactics they're going to take.
Yeah.
And I think obviously that relates to women's freedoms, as well as other freedoms as well. But I feel more at home in a more dialogic sort of educational setting, and maybe that is coded more like to, maybe that is gendered perspective. I haven't really thought about it like that, but I know that my friend, she teaches beginner level ESOL, and she quite soon after she started working online, she just left I think they're mostly women, and she left the students working, just talking to each other for 15 minutes before the class without the teacher, because they're isolated in their houses and it's a social space for them. So there are all sorts of gendered things that come into it. Sorry, that was I don't know where that was going. That was just
No,
my
no,
thought.
no, no. I'm going to take your point and embrace it, because what you've said at the beginning is absolutely spot on true. You were saying it's maybe it does not, the problems are not limited just to gender, because it becomes a question of it being a business, of it becoming expensive. So education becomes commodified, so it excludes people who can't afford it. Then it's that, and that's non-gendered poverty, or reduced
also,
resources
is
can
it
affect
about,
anybody.
is it about, is education really about the students? Is it really for the students?
Good question.
Or is it something that's been boxed up to sell, you know?
Yeah, that's an excellent question. Education for education's sake rather than education as a business. Now, Hernani is a student now. I'm just quickly to go back to the slide, but super briefly, because then I'd like to jump back to Susan's point. In your mind, Hernani, when you think of teaching, do you think of it as a female job, a woman's job, or more of a man's profession?
Well, in my opinion, I think this is a measure of equity and freedom. Okay, so for me, it doesn't matter if he's a man or a female who is teaching, as well as the person has the qualifications to do that job, you know. So I don't understand nowadays why we have to argue about this topic if it belongs to man or to women, you know.
Okay.
So for me, I what I consider the most important factor to do any job, even for teaching. Yeah, the person has to be very qualified for that job.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. And I totally agree with you. It's just historically in the parts of the world that I've lived in, the lower levels of teaching, like kindergarten, primary school, middle school, there's a predominance of women in the teaching body, lots of female teachers. My son, I've got a 30-year-old son who he would have been aged probably 13 before he saw his first male teacher. It was only women teachers up until that age. However, in educational management, which in public sector school means a head teacher, but in higher education, it's a bigger body of people. It includes deans and rectors and heads of department and so on and so forth. There's a bit of a domination of men. So it's like a sort of female workforce with male bosses an awful lot. And I'm also going to put out there that for a lot of people, technology is blue coded. It's more associated with, it's considered a boy's toy. And a lot of women, and I've got a whole bunch of women teachers here tonight who could sort of say the piece on this. Using EdTech in schools or in universities as a woman sometimes gets you condescended to. The men assume you don't really understand it. At my age in particular, I set off on the really wrong foot with the IT guy in the last job I had. Because on my first day there, I've literally used EdTech for about 20 odd years. And on the first day, he asked me if he needed to show me how to use the email. I went, oh God. I mean, like, really? No, I could just about grasp that. I'm not that bad. I'm not that daft. So, to me, the question, one of the questions that I'm posing tonight is, if technology is blighted by the misogyny that Leticia witnessed firsthand, and that we know is really, really bad, and is absolutely dominated by men. Unfortunately, they don't think the way Hernani thinks that if you're qualified, then you deserve the job. They think it's a boys' club, and they exclude women, and they exclude women through quite bullying modes like harassment and abuse and threats and this, that, and the other. So what happens when you put together a product which comes from a misogynistic, sexist source with the profession of teaching, which up until now has been pretty much female dominated? So that's one of the questions I want to keep in mind this evening. Now, just in case I'm giving the impression that underneath it all, I quite hate technology. I really, really don't. I love technology. And like I said, I've used it in teaching for decades. However, I'm the first to acknowledge that even things that are fabulous and fun and just make you buzz, like, I don't know, all night partying or whatever, can be bad for you, because if you party all night, every night, year after year after year, you would drop down dead. It would kill you. Same thing with technology. If misused, if used inappropriately, if used in the wrong context, with the wrong people, in the wrong way, etc., 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 it could potentially do some harm. And I'm talking about in education, and specifically this evening, just to narrow it down, but Susan is right, this conversation could apply to a whole bunch of different categories of human beings. Can it do damage? Too much focus on the damage. So just so we're clear, technology good, EdTech good. We like them. We like them both, but they need to be used properly. Okay, so again, we're back to personal narrative. I'm going to go around the table, or the virtual table as it were, and I would like a couple of words. I've already told you how long I've been using EdTech and the fact that I like it. A couple of words about your relationship with EdTech. I'm actually going to start with Susan, if she doesn't mind, because somebody else. Because Susan mentioned earlier on that some of her her preferences are for the less technological approaches in education. So what is your relationship with EdTech at the moment, Susan?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if it is less technological. It's just that I think that you can have a more dialogic, a more kind of emergent curriculum based on the students' needs and wants online. It's just that possibly the way that EdTech it is in the mainstream, it seems to be very packaged or packaging, and yeah, I think it is possible to replicate a more not communicative, but more progressive or collaborative approach online as well. Yeah, and I'm exploring that, but I still think I need to learn a lot more about teaching with technology. Yeah, I've got a holistic view of how it can work, but I'm not very practiced in it really. Only on you know, a simple level.
Okay, that's great. I'll leave Hernani for last, because he'll come in as the student with the student's point of view. Letizia, can I ask you, what is your relationship with EdTech? Is it a good one? Is it a bad one? Hostile?
Yes,
one?
I love technology. You know, I work online, 100% online since the middle of 2017. So now 2018. So I really like to innovate while I'm teaching. I like to give some other options to my students, and it this desire just sparkled on me when I was in a workshop with a girl, the Brazilian girls might know her, Gisele Santos. She works as with gamification, and she's also Google Innovation Girl certificate, and she owns this certification. And when I participated on this workshop, an entire world open, and I told myself I really want to do something like that. And I love technology. And that's a pity, Caroline, when you told me, when you just talked about women teaching kids or just youngers, reminds me my last job when I used to work with, adults. Then I was hired for a new school here in Brazil. Then they gave me really young students, and I cannot work with. It's not that I cannot, but I told them in the interview that I prefer not for thousand reasons, and they just ignore me because it was because I was a woman, and they okay, you would like to work with kids, and we need to start to speak more about it. I think this is something like some hidden things people don't like to. It's not that like I think people don't feel secure to talk about it or openly talk about it, and that's great. We are here discussing about this subject.
Yeah, and also there's strength in numbers, and there you go. There's the irony of the thing. Technology gives us the possibility to have cross-border conversations of this sort and form communities, if nothing else, of just moral support, because you could be the lone woman in a department where maybe there's a lot of men and you have been talked down to and been ignored and all the rest of it. Just kind of connect, like what you said about being, that experience about being ignored. I wanted to ask Carol, in connection with educational management, which the figures indicate that it's probably more male dominated, have you had experiences, without naming anybody, without having awkward conversations, but generally speaking, have you ever struggled to get your voice heard by management, in particular around EdTech and how it should be used according to you?
One thing that happened in more than one school that I worked was that some male teachers, even though they didn't have any kind of formation in the area, they just knew how to speak English, they got much higher salaries just because they were men. Yeah. And there was this regular school that the male teachers, they didn't have to go on Fridays to work. So the school was filled with women because they used to go out on Thursday night. So they shouldn't, bother to work on the next day. Yeah, so it was
okay. That's not great. What about you and EdTech, generally speaking, leaving these bad experiences aside? Do you use EdTech? Do you like EdTech? Do you resent EdTech?
I guess sometimes we all do resent it because it doesn't work the way it should, especially because maybe the other end, the student, the connection is not really good, something like that. But I actually love it. I try to add, every time I have any class or any new group, I try to add how important it is for us to be in touch with that, because we are connected. When would we meet each other if not with technology, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
And so now I'm working alone, like Leticia, I've been teaching online only. But before, when I worked in groups, I saw that in some schools, it was hard for me to use EdTech because most people thought of it as, we're just killing time. We're not really learning. Like it was just this is just some game. It doesn't matter if I'm using English. If I put a computer in front of the student, automatically they think it's not good.
Yeah,
So
yes,
it was,
yeah.
was kind of bad for me, but now I can do it.
Cara, who was seeing it from that point of view, that it was just a game, it was just a kind of time wasting? Who was perceiving it that way? Colleagues?
Colleagues, especially the director of the school. She was also a teacher.
See,
she was also a teacher, but she had that view that only paper can teach you something, you know.
Okay. Interesting, isn't it? Because very often I've found my experience that the frontline teachers who are good at ed tech, not all of them, but some of them are really, really good at it, and they should be the ones that everybody should go to for guidance, including the management or the head teacher, whoever. But there's so many assumptions around technology that quite often the people making the decisions are not making the right ones. So really quickly, Hernani, you've got this perspective, the point of view of the student. I was just wondering, over these since you've been doing your studies, but in particular over this last year, how have you seen ed tech fit into your educational life? Has it helped you? Has it made things more difficult? Has it saved this year for you, or has it just been a struggle?
Well, for me, as a medical doctor, last year, because of this pandemic problem we have now, so all educational approach were done online. So we have had a lot of webinars, and almost every meetings and every kind of up-to-date information were made online. So now we are obligated to do every kind of work online. So it is like a compulsory subject for me working online.
I see. Okay, so I thought you were a full-time student. You look really young, so I just assumed you were a full-time student, and the English language was just something you were tacking on. But you're actually a doctor, so you've been using online tools even through your work over this last year a lot.
Yes. So just to give you a clear example for the clinics now, is just in order to avoid to be in touch with patients. We ask them to stay at home, and we do phone calls and sometimes video conferencing. Okay.
Yeah. Okay.
But on the other hand, we used to meet with other colleagues. So some years ago, it would be in-person meetings, but now we do almost everything online via webinars mostly, and sometimes by phone calls.
Okay, I got you. So even on your professional sphere, the whole COVID crisis has pushed your job online to a degree as well. So you're getting a double perspective. So you, when I ask questions about the ed tech part, the educational side of technology, you experience it for your English language studying, I presume, but you also have an understanding of how technology is impacting jobs all around the world, different kinds of jobs this last year. If we focus on educational technology for a moment, what I've got here is a list of digital tools and affordances, if you like, just ways of using digital products in education. So the things that if I was trying to sell you an educational technology product, these are the things I'd say. It's got games and you can gamify everything, and then the kids can communicate in a blog, and then they can. keep in touch on the forum, and then I've got scores and points, which you think, what is that? What I kind of meant by that were all those activities, and I think all of us here, whether as learners or teachers, we've used those games and activities which clock up points. So even if it's not competitive in the sense of competing against other people in the class, you're playing with these games which allow you to play against yourself, and you clock up scores, which, bit of a spoiler, boys tend to prefer more than girls. And then there's multiple choices instead of long form answers. The virtual realities, which are, I think, expensive and not available except in maybe somehow technology, higher educational circumstances. Distance collaboration, of which this here, we've got somebody else coming in. I think there are people here that I can't see, and I'm going to apologize immediately for ignoring you because I cannot see you on the screen. I can't see you on the screen. Who?
I didn't mention, Caroline, that part of your host job would be to let people in.
I've been letting people in, but then the poor lambs, I've completely ignored them. So I'll big shout out to Helen, Claudia, and Talita, who are there. Hey, Claudia, how are you? I'm sorry, I'm a EdTech expert in theory, and I have no idea how to show all your photographs on the screen at the same time. So you're gonna have to forgive me. Just yell at me if you want to answer and join in. Oops, I've gone ahead in the oh, more. So okay, so we can follow each other. That's a brilliant idea. We'll go back to the excellent. So absolutely must keep in touch. So I have, it's gone back. It's not working. There we go. This list of tools and things you can do with technology that can be, which are commonly used in education. So just, I'll not maybe go around absolutely everybody, but maybe Claudia, since she's just joined us. What of these ones do you like using in Claudia, you're a teacher as well. So I'm assuming you're a teacher. Yeah. Which one of these do you make use of in your teaching on a habitual level? Which are your favorites? What parts of these of the list? I would just, maybe everybody have a little think about it. Blogs, forums, the games, projects done on computers. What is it that you make use of?
When I have groups, or actually in the past I used to work more with groups. I would say all of them, but especially games. And yeah, especially games, actually.
Games, okay.
Yeah, but now that I've been teaching mostly individually, one-on-one, then games is really not a possibility anymore. You know, I would go more for the research activities, freedom of self-expression, etc.
Okay. The projects and things, do you have them doing group projects online or individual projects?
Well, I have only one-on-one, so usually,
okay.
Yeah, it's individual. There's no other way.
Okay, yeah, okay. Susan, can I ask you, which of these affordances and tools do you make most use of in your classrooms?
Freedom of self-expression, some creative expression. In
a digital sense, Susan?
In a digital sense.
Yeah, can I ask you how?
I mean,
yeah, like the self-expression, what tools do you use? What guidance do you give to get them given fuller range to self-expression by using digital tools?
Well, I guess sort of if they were working in groups and they were communicating with each other online,
yeah.
I mean, in a sense, you know, using breakout rooms or whatever instead of groups in a classroom.
Mm-hmm.
sometimes games. Yeah.
When you choose to include games in lessons, what's the drive, or what's the reasoning behind it? What's the purpose of the objective of the games that you use?
It might be to kind of do a language review, or yeah, a language review perhaps. So looking at grammar or vocabulary, just maybe looking at mistakes that have been made as a way of, and also as a way of varying the pace to kind of lighten things up.
Okay. Okay. So listen, since creativity has been one of the little topics of the evening. Yeah, absolutely. Karina's sending out a message. Please call on me when you want to speak. If I'm ignoring you, if you want to butt in, feel absolutely free. So creativity has been on the back burner of the conversation all evening. And I want to throw creativity into the mix of education and educators and the students, if I may, at this point, asking you to again look at this list and have a think about which of these tools, these digital tools or affordances, are the most creative, the ones which support creativity and a creative intelligence and a creative curiosity, if you like, around their subjects. Letizia, which ones, if you to choose one which is particularly suitable for associating with creative expression, obviously, as I said, the last one kind of covers it. Apart from that one, which one or ones do you think are particularly?
I will choose freedom of self-expression. I really like this kind of environment. Khalid and I, we used to have monthly some time with some guests and our students to talk freely and talking about a specific subject, and we received a huge feedback from them because they got this opportunity of talking without being judged. That's why I choose freedom of self-expression.
Okay. Carol, are you still there, Carol?
Yeah.
Well, what about you? What would be your choices? Which one of these would you indicate as particularly useful in supporting a student's creativity?
I guess it's more a matter of how you conduct it, how you make it work.
Okay.
Like, for example, there are some games that I use that you have to decide what's going to happen. You have to decide which way you were going. And sometimes the students feel like playing it again to see if they have chosen other path, they would have a different ending. And we can use those games to ask them to write something, and then we add the freedom of self-expression because they can create the end. But I guess it's range of creative expression, everything that you can use that can, like Leticia said, can let them express themselves, I guess is the best outcome, in my opinion.
Okay, that's excellent. I'm just going to also speak on Talita's behalf. She sent a message. She's a problem with the camera and mic, but she uses free self-expression. So maybe tools like this, video conferencing and forums where there's more interchange than there would be in a traditional class. Distance collaboration, which is really interesting. And again, what we're doing this evening is kind of an example, although we're not all a bunch of students working together. The effect is the same if a bunch of students are working on a project and they're using mechanism like this to be in contact, they can do it from all the corners of the world. And projects, that's brilliant, Talita. That's really, that's great. Karina, hello, my dear, speak to me.
Yeah, I just wonder if the onus is on the user to use the object in a creative way.
The user being the educator or the student?
Yes.
The educator.
Well, primarily the educator.
Mm-hmm.
And I wonder, yeah, I wonder if the skill actually lies in us. And in our ability to manipulate these tools. Yeah, can creativity be embedded into a tool, or is it just, or do we hold that power? I guess that's what I'm thinking about.
Maybe. I'm a hater of multiple choices. I really do not like multiple choices. So my pet annoyance is the overuse of multiple choices, where back in the old days when I was a girl, you had to write long form answers, so like mini essays and paragraph and paragraph and paragraph. And but not only in assessment, but actually sort of in day-to-day classes of any sort. The long form and literacy, like reading has been shortened and condensed, and that, I would suggest, is going to impact verbal creativity, because through reading your vocabulary expands, through writing you become used to higher forms of sentence construction and paragraph, and it affects your thought. So it could have kind of long-term effects, overusing things like multiple choices or polls or whatever. Helen has sent us a message. Hang on, and let me just share with everybody. I think distance collaboration is a great way to encourage creativity while learners learn and grow together, expanding the creative ideas and considering different perspectives through discussion and collaboration. And I absolutely agree, Helen. That's constructivism, isn't it? When people actually act as different parts of a whole and together bring about understanding and knowledge. Let me just scoot on. So during my research, we were talking about the color coding, the gender coding of certain activities or certain concepts. During my studying and my research, I came across and included in my own research, the Lit Review anyway, a mention of phenomenon of gendering of gendered outcomes of certain of these digital tools. So there were some studies, for example, speaking about the utility of blogs in education, but attributing them of greater benefit to girls or more appealing to girls. Likewise, distance collaboration seems to go down well more with females, because it's not even just a digital thing. The commonly held idea about women is that they collaborate better than men, less antagonism between them. These could all be stereotypes. I'm not stating that they are so, just that there are studies which indicate that these things, so games and gamification, appeal more to boys. Forums, not that they appeal more to male students, but unfortunately they're the site of a bit of bullying from males towards females. A bit of that has gone on according to some of the studies. I was a bit naughty from an academic point of view. I've not actually added in citations that you can actually go and look up these, but you're just going to have to trust me on that I found hints within studies of certain tendencies to find that amongst the students, males, the boys, the men, got more benefit or more enjoyment out of certain types of digital tools, whereas on the pink side of things, it was the ones connected to literacy and verbalizing and expression and all the rest of it. And
when you look at the pink ones, they seem to be more kind of related to what you would expect as good practice in teaching and learning, that they would benefit deeper learning. But yet, if you look at the ones in the blue, the coded blue, they seem to be ones that perhaps are given more value in terms of EdTech teaching or whatever.
Oh, that's interesting. Yeah,
that's my sense of it.
That's a really good observation, Susan. I think, you know, there's a bit of a crisis in education, which maybe Hernani has heard of. They call it the feminization of education. They claim that boys are not doing so well overall because education has been feminized, accusing educational policies of favoring girls, whereas in reality, the EdTech, which has been introduced into schools, all these games and scoring activities and so on, like you said, they're the ones which are actually counted. They use multiple choices and quizzes and final exams now, whereas these long forms are a bit neglected in the assessment phase, and they're the ones that are connected with it. So we're seeing a bit of a division here on a gendered level, as it were, or at least hints of it. I mean, it's really early days. I have to emphasize that. EdTech is so new. Technology is new. EdTech is really new, and there's not an awful lot of research out there which could pin down one thing as a truth or a misunderstanding. It's still a bit early, so we're just talking about it. Yeah, Karina? Yes, my dear?
Yeah, I guess, I don't know, for some reason I look at this from a diplomatic point of view, but I guess when I look at those, I think that they all have value.
Yeah.
And that they all need to be there or can be there. And it's more of, you know, selecting and choosing the right ones at the right time and not overdoing it and not just doing one. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's my feeling. I don't know.
No, that's a good feeling. The problem would be that, I'm going to throw this question into the mix now. What if the teacher is not aware that they're privileging? This is confession time for me. I mean, until I started in the dissertation, I don't think I'd really even thought about EdTech in quite this filter. And I don't think I'd ever thought about, okay, so I mean, it's kind of about blogs, obviously, it's longer form literacy and all the rest of it, but that it might be something which would appeal more to female students, but in actual fact is the activity which maybe boy students need more practice in, and vice versa. That's activities which give you scores and points and make you be a bit competitive. Maybe should be kind of forced on girls just to make them compete in that way, or maybe not, I don't know. It's so my question was, are teachers aware of these things? Do we take these things into consideration?
Personally, I hadn't.
Yeah, I hadn't. Helen's raised her hand. Yes, Helen.
That's okay. Hi.
Hi.
I'll turn on my video now. I'm not sure about my connection, but
don't worry.
Okay.
Don't worry. Good to have you here.
Thank you. When I was studying in uni, we learned multiple intelligence theory, and about the idea that learners have different strengths and weaknesses, and they learn well in different ways. Some of them are strong auditory learners, some of them are strong interpersonal learners, that sort of thing. And we were obviously taught that, a good teacher attempts to reach all of their learners and to meet all of their learning needs. So from my perspective, we should be trying to use all of these and as best we can, like a balance of all of them. And which gender they may particularly reach for isn't really important. And to me, honestly, I don't think that gamification is particularly masculine anyway. I mean, especially nowadays where more women are buying video games than men. I think games for kids are just fun. I teach kids in particular.
Okay.
Online, I'm an only online teacher now because of COVID.
Everybody, is there anybody? Has anybody seen a classroom recently? Anybody at all?
Yeah, yeah, and the lessons that I teach are particularly gamified and engaging. The children have to like, they use tablets and they have to circle and draw and touch, and they're always like, it's very interactive as an engagement mechanism to keep them interested. And so I don't view gamification as something for boys or for girls. I think it's for everyone. I think anybody can like games, and especially nowadays. I mean, we can even see. I have a friend who works in tech, and she and her husband work in tech, and she got her degree in computer sciences. And she says that like more and more she's seeing much more like equitable representation of women in the companies where she's worked.
Okay.
In coding. Not particularly in ed tech, but
coding, yeah.
And also, I mean, nowadays in video games, there are more and more options for like female avatars and male avatars, or like non-binary, non-gendered avatars.
Yeah.
And there actually are games where there's only a female avatar, and like boys have to play as a girl if they want to play, you know, and that sort of thing. So obviously, I think we have a long way to go. But
sure. Signs of progress. You're saying
yeah. I mean, one of the like highest selling games in 2015, Horizon Zero Dawn, had only a female character, and anyone who wanted to play it had to play as her. And so, yeah, I mean, that's huge. In the past, in the past, I think we didn't have female characters till Lara Croft in the 90s. There were years and years and years where video games were just for boys. But I think that's changing, and that's good. And I think that gamification in the classroom for everyone. Gamification in the classroom for everyone is sort of helping with that. You know?
Think it's fun? Okay, Helen, you said you teach younger children. That's your specialization, younger children. So can I ask, in that particular field, younger children, to teach literacy skills, which the results, at least here in Europe, their indication that boys, the literacy skills are lower than girls. What activities, what tools, what ed tech would you use to encourage the lads to be more articulate? And Horizon Zero Dawn, I'm going to have a look into that because I'm doing research into this kind of thing. I didn't know about that one, so that's one I'll definitely jot down and have a look at. So
the sequel's coming out soon now. I forget what it's called. Yeah,
I'm an old lady. I don't know about these things. Sequels belong to films and movies, not games.
The representation of women in films and movies is increasing as well.
Sure.
So the company that I work for provides the materials. So we teachers can choose to supplement them with videos or pictures or things, but and they're adapted from course books. And so the lessons it's sort of like a preloaded PowerPoint, I suppose. And they have, sometimes they have animated images in them. And they're a mix of reading, speaking, listening, and writing.
Okay.
And so depending on the age, I have a 4-year-old student, for example, and she and I we don't read texts because she's 4. But I have students who are 12. And we read texts and answer concept check questions right there in the PowerPoint. The PowerPoint, it's not a PowerPoint, but the presentation slides. And so and the materials do checking on vocabulary and concept checking, and it's sort of prepared in a way it's meant to encourage reading and speaking in particular. And listening, obviously, verbally in the moment, but also some of the lessons include recordings with different accents.
What you're saying kind of loops back to what Karina was saying earlier on. It's maybe not what you use, it's how you use it. So the tool itself is neutral. It's harmless. It's not beneficial. It's not harmless. It just then depends how it's put into the classroom. I really wish I didn't have to make your faces disappear like seeing everybody. Let's try squeezing us all. Oh, no, you've gone. There you go. Okay. Let's, because I'm a wee bit conscious of the time.
It's flying by. It's flown by.
It has. Okay. So all I want to do is throw out there, just to sort of summarize this little bit, conclude this little part of our conversation, is that basically what we've just said, maybe teachers need to be a bit more aware of how digital tools can be used well and be used badly, and that digital tools and the affordances that the technology offers doesn't always necessarily affect all the members of your classroom in the same. There could be a gender divide in the way these tools are received or used, with different levels of benefit. Is this a message coming in? I feel like I'm on the radio, and we have a message coming in from a caller. Who we got? Okay, yeah. What time should we be winding up? Like right now, I guess. What I would like to do, is just very quickly skip through this feminist part of the conversation, if you don't mind. If everybody can, is everybody okay for a few more minutes? I don't know what time it is where you are. I'll speed it up. There's a couple of things I'd love to, if possible, get through. Everybody okay?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah. Okay, that's fine.
Yeah.
So I'll concentrate it now by speaking very quickly like this. Okay. So just throwing it out there, teachers maybe will need, especially in future, to take on board that the gendering of tools of engendered nature, even if it's based on stereotypes and has nothing to do with any kind of reality, may affect the way the tools are received by the students. A quick word about educational management. We kind of mentioned it earlier on. The point I was going to make here and discuss, but we're going to try, I think, skip over this. I'll just quickly mention it, is that educational management is the one that has the money and knows what the policies are. And Susan earlier on made mention of commodification and is education for students, and throughout there extremely pertinent points, because there would be a whole other big conversation to be had around the commodification of education. Management often has its eye on the financial ball, not the pedagogical one, and EdTech, when used for monitoring and assessment and data mining and control and surveillance and all the rest of students and teachers, then becomes a tool of the management and has got nothing to do with any kind of learning process. So the concerning thing would be, and it's happened to me, I'm going to have to be honest here, I have had the experience of educational management foisting on teachers who knew better certain types of tools like learning management systems, which did not suit us, did not suit the students, but suited them because they were connected into their own database and was collecting information from everybody. That's a bit of an unpleasant one. I'm going to have to squeeze you all over. You've all been eating too much. This is a super quick look. These are the kind of boring slides of how you're not supposed to do a PowerPoint presentation. A whole lot of information, but it's basically it's statistics around the proportions of women and teachers in the Organization for Economic Cooperation and Development countries. 68% of lower secondary school teachers are in fact women, but only 45% of the principals, which isn't a bad proportion. It's not awful. It's nearly 50%, but it's a woman-dominated. It's nearly 70% women as teachers, and so the leaders, for some reason, can't imagine why. Are we okay? Okay. This is the ghastly one. In higher education institutions across the EU, only 12% have women rectors. So our female-dominated profession, we just disappear as you got the hierarchy. And even just for the professor role in Europe, only 21% of full university professors are women, and this isn't healthy. That's not a good sign. Oops. if you look then at what happens when there's a gender bias in education, imbalance, whatever you want to call it, when you look into government job governance, a really important workforce, again, you see women making up 57% of the workforce total, so actually the majority of the workforce, but, and this is horrible, 65% in secretarial positions, 35% in middle management, and only 27% in the top management jobs. That's not a healthy sign. So there's obviously something still going on. And this is the really nasty one. This is the one that's going to upset me and not make me sleep tonight. Out of 193 UN countries, 11 have a woman heading as head of state and only 12 as head of government. So my argument is, women, we've got a long way to go. Feminism, I'd thrown that out there, I think maybe in the initial write-up for this workshop. Is feminism even a thing? Is it worth it? Is it? I don't know. You're going to answer me, if you've got time, after you've done this quick quiz, because now it's quiz night. And I'm going to play a little game with you. You guys are going to work together. I am going to disappear for 5 minutes so that you get a chance to collaborate together in the job of identifying those 10 women. I have not been nasty. I have not been mean. They are not obscure figures. They are all extremely prominent historical feminist figureheads. So the game is, how many of them can you name? Okay, I'm leaving you for 5 minutes. You're on your own.
Hello, everyone.
Can you see it okay?
Yes,
Can everybody see it?
Yes, thank you.
Okay, I'm walking away. I'll be back in 5 minutes.
Number 1 is Simone de Beauvoir. Number 2 is Angela Davis. Number 3, I'm not sure. And number 4, I don't know. Anybody know number 3 and number 4?
Let's have a look.
Number 5 is Germaine Greer. Number 6 is Chimamanda.
Yes, we have Hanani, who's typed in the chat, number 6, Chimamanda Ngozi.
Oh yeah.
Okay, yeah, good one. Anyone else?
Number 8 is
Gloria.
Gloria, what's her name?
Yeah, I've forgotten. Number 7 is the Me Too. Is she the Me Too?
Yeah, she is, isn't she?
Yeah.
I don't know her name.
The first person to, yeah.
Gloria Steinem is number 8, that's right.
Yeah. I wrote in the chat box, 9 is Malala and 10 is Ruth Bader Ginsburg.
Yeah.
Yes, we got, yes, thank you. Yeah, Helen had typed Malala. And we've got Ginsburg at the end. So who are we missing? I think number 7 is someone like Tamara. I don't know if her name is Tamara or something.
Yeah.
And 3 and 4 look familiar, but I don't know names. Oh, who have we got? Yes, Susan had mentioned Germaine Greer, thank you. At number 5. Number 2, Angela Davis. Letitia is looking things up on Google.
I gave up. This number 4, I totally gave up. So I'm so sorry.
Can you tell us something about her? Do you have that?
Yes, she's a feminist. She's a feminist.
Okay, where's she from?
I know, let me check. She's a Jewish subject. I don't know where she's from. I'm gonna check out again.
Okay.
remote teacher
Number-
thing, in my opinion. She is a feminist and activist, and she's from USA.
Oh,
USA.
okay. Simone de
Google it.
number 1. Number 7, Hanani, I was saying, I think she's American, and I think she is.
She's Tarana Burke.
Sorry?
Tarana Burke. I just looked her up.
Tarana, yeah. I thought her name was like Tamara or something. Tarana
Yeah,
Burke
Tarana Burke.
started the Me Too movement.
So we haven't got number 3.
We haven't got 3. That's correct.
You haven't got 3. I'm back, by the way.
Number 3. We've got the rest. But not
Okay, right. Let's go through them one by one. That's good then. That's good. Very good. There's no prize, so it's a really lousy quiz. I have to confess now that you've made all the effort. Number 1. What's the answer for number 1?
Simone de Beauvoir.
Yes. And number 2?
Angela Davis.
Oh yeah. Number 3 is the one you said you didn't know.
Gloria Jan something.
Yeah. Bell Hooks. Her pen name is Bell.
Bell Hooks, yes. Bell Hooks.
Yeah.
Just Google it.
Are you Googling? Are you reverse image Googling?
No, I was. My fault. I'm kidding.
What about 4? Number 4? Any takers for number 4?
What did we say?
Betty Friedman, who wrote The Feminine Mystique.
Yes, and the feminine mystique is considered the catalyst of the whole second wave feminist movement of the 60s and 70s. What about number 5?
Germaine Greer.
Yeah, Germaine. Number 6.
Hanani?
Number 6 is Chimamanda Ngozi.
Yes, yeah, the Nigerian writer and feminist. Number 7.
Tamara Burke.
Yep. What's she famous for?
Me Too, before Me Too.
Yeah, she invented the Me Too thing. Number 8.
Gloria Steinem.
Gloria Steinem. Number 9. Easy.
Malala.
That's Malala. And number 10.
Ruth Bader Ginsburg. Her honor.
You were really good. You were exceptionally good. You were better than I thought, because I was going to see. I even prepared a little slide for each one, just in case you didn't know who they were, and they are pretty important figures in feminism. And I was leading to the point that maybe, just a suggestion, and excuse the very abrupt link to what we were saying earlier on, maybe we need to be teaching feminism more actively, be more aware of gender issues and feminist issues, even in education. So just, somebody's sending me messages. Oh, Google. You're cheating, and I can see that you're cheating. Just last of all, what I wanted to suggest was some kind of written reflection, just to tie up all the ends from this evening. It can be something along the lines of, should we be teaching feminism? It's not cheating, it's resources. Helen. So, I'll write a little blog post. Maybe Karina can coordinate this, where everybody writes a reflection on the top, or even around, loosely collected to the topics this evening. EdTech, is it good for everybody, or is it gendered? Should we be more feminist aware, or is feminism died a death and no longer needed? Should men be feminists or no? And so on and so forth. And also, is it tech for everyone? Yeah, that's it. Just even on the modality of the interaction, if you're not really interested in those topics, even just the way this conversation panned out with everybody chipping in, just I guess we could call this telecollaboration. So that's all. We've run way out of time, but I want to thank you from the bottom of my heart for being so kind to listen to me and to take part. It was a delight to meet you all, an absolute delight, and I hope we keep in touch. I saw there were some messages. I noticed people suggesting that there we go, Instagram account. I don't do Instagram. I'm so,
Facebook.
Facebook. Oh, I hate Facebook. Yeah, I'm really weird. I love EdTech and I hate it. Love it, hate it. I'm not great on social media.
Caroline tried to find you on Instagram previously. That's why I couldn't.
You were looking for it. No, you'll find me
Yes.
on Twitter. I am on Twitter.
Oh.
Okay. I'll do my best to
So okay, so we'll all Twitterize one another if that appeals. So again, thank you. Sorry I had to rush at the end, but you've been great. You've contributed so much to the conversation. We could have talked for hours and hours and hours.
I just want
Yes,
to,
Chloe.
yes, thank you, Caroline, for presenting. Thanks to everyone for showing up and participating. Go ahead and add your contact details in the chat. If you don't know, you can actually click the three dots next to where you type and save the chat. Yeah, you could save the chat and you can see that's an easy way. Yeah, tech tip. There's an easy way for you to save people's contact details if you want to follow them online. I really like this idea of the written reflection, your thoughts of the evening, your thoughts about the topics, your thoughts about our interactions. And I think it would be a cool idea to put together a little post. So I'm going to follow you up like the good teacher I am. I'm going to follow up and see if anyone wants to contribute their writing. We can make a little blog post together. I think that would be cool.
Yeah.
Excellent. Hey, Talita.
Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, so thank you to everyone. I'm going to stop recording the session now, and I'm going to upload it at some point to my YouTube channel. There's only about 2 subscribers, so don't worry about being found online. And do let me know if you don't want to be seen. That's it. That's it.
Okay, so we just everybody add to the chat their contact details. I'll add my Twitter thingy.
Yeah,
I don't know.
I just say in the chat box.